everyone, and welcome to the January 2022 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. If you would, please rise and begin the Pledge of Allegiance by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time I open up the floor to public comments. Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, and I'll call on Mary Kuna with the Cumberland County Housing and Redevelopment Authority to discuss Resolution 2022-3, which relates to the 2020 Emergency Solutions Grant. Hi, Mary.
Hi, everyone. So basically, this is probably the third time you've heard this from us, and not on purpose. So Safe Harbor was offered additional funds for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program through DCD. And originally, we had come before you last month or thereabouts to tag that money on to our ESG CV contract. To make a long story short, DCD did not do that. They did a lot of movements on that contract, but did not wait, even though it was directed in a number of emails about the approval process and commissioner signatures. They had already sent you the contract prior to receiving your signatures for this additional money. So they, in reaching out to them and explaining, hey, you didn't get anything signed from us yet, and yet you sent a contract, their explanation was, whoops, and the best we can do is have you go before the commissioners again to tack the additional funds onto a new contract. So that's what we are doing. The long and short of it is the emergency solution grant funds are, we get them annually as Cumberland County. We apply on behalf of the county and we receive funding, and those are used for anything from rapid rehousing, emergency shelters, you name it, anything to do with homelessness. So the county receives an allocation annually. We just happen to have some extra COVID money. So there's ESG CV and then each annual allocation. So basically, Safe Harbor applied for money in their 2022 contract, and originally DCD did not award that money. After a conversation with Safe Harbor, they thought the money should be awarded and decided to do that by tacking it on to a previous contract. Just so happens their timing and our timing didn't align. So basically what we're coming back to ask for is for our ESG 2020 contract. This would be with the county, and what we are going to do is move a couple of funds to better allocate them and accept some funding on behalf of Safe Harbor. So what you have in front of you would be taking our Emergency Solutions Grant 2020 contract, and we will be moving about $19,000 within the current budget. So $5,000 would go from rental assistance to street outreach case management, and that would help administer what's considered the point in time account. So where we go out in the middle of winter and sort of take a good point in time count of how many individuals are homeless in Cumberland County. So we would be moving some money to that. We take $10,000 from rental assistance to emergency shelter operations. CARES has seen a significant need, so we're just sort of moving money to where the need really is. $2,000 of our HMIS, which is our database that we manage. It basically tracks information related to individuals who are homeless. We'll be moving that over to some case management, and then $2,000 from financial services for rapid rehousing to services. We've found people need much more help on the case management side. And then lastly, the county would be adding additional $50,000 of funds for emergency shelter operations to community cares. So in total, we're moving about $19,000 all around. And again, this is the sort of the second time we're coming to you for this, but same thing we talked about last month. We're just switching things around on a second contract. So I'll take any questions you may have, but it's just reallocating money through the winter to what we really need here in the county.
Any questions for Mary?
No.
Thank you for the thorough explanation, Mary.
Yep, thanks, Mary.
Complicated, I'm sorry.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to agenda item number 4. I'll call on Dana Best to discuss resolution 2022-2, which is a budget adjustment. Dana?
Good morning. The Affordable Housing Fund is requesting to increase revenues and expenses by $30,000. Affordable housing's revenues have exceeded what was budgeted for in 2021, and the expenses also increase when the revenues increase. It transfers to the redevelopment authority when they request the funding. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you.
We'll go on to agenda item number 5, and I'll call on Tammy Hershey to cover contracts and grants.
Thank you, Stacy. Agenda item number 5, numeral 1, is existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the agreement for the prison? Hearing none, we will move on to agenda item number 5, numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. I will begin by calling on Jamie Ryber to discuss the contracts for children and youth. Jamie.
Morning, everyone. The first contract we have is Bethany Christian Services of Western Pennsylvania. We already contract with Bethany Christian Services of Central Pennsylvania. However, we needed a family that was not local, so we had to develop a contract with their Western program. Their rates are comparable to our other foster care programs and are within the state maximum allowable. The second one that we have is with Northampton Juvenile Justice Center. We have been waiting for this contract. They had been doing some negotiating with the state. However, they finally have that all figured out. They are increasing their rates from $270 a day to $280 a day due to salary increases, developing a quarantine unit and staffing that, and some other things that go along with COVID. Any questions?
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Next, I will call on Ron Snow to discuss the grant for finance. Ron.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're asking for grant acceptance in the amount of $19,827.46. This is for the FEMA Public Assistance Grant, and this was for expenses incurred at the Community Vaccination Center.
Questions
Any
for Ron?
questions?
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
I will now call on Annie Strite to discuss the contracts for MHIDD. Good morning, Annie.
Good morning. So I have 3 contracts to present for our department. The first is for early intervention and the contracts with aspirations. We're requesting an increase of their contract for $89,520, and it's due to an increase in service delivery. And just so you folks know, they deliver occupational, physical, and speech therapy for our early intervention office. So birth to 3. That would bring their total contract to $267,365. And I'll just move to the next one too. It's also an early intervention contract. The provider is Pediatric Therapy Specialist of South Central PA, and we're requesting an increase of their contract for $18,511. And again, they provide occupational, physical, and speech therapies for children birth to 3. That would bring their contract to $67,165. Do you have any questions for us about either of those 2 contracts? If not, I'm going to move to an intellectual disabilities contract. The provider is Benevolent Heart Assisted Living, and we're requesting an increase of $8,895, and it's due to an increase in services. They provide companion and respite services for individuals with intellectual disabilities. That would bring their total contract to $51,478. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I will now call on Stephanie Williams to discuss the certification funding for planning. Stephanie?
Good morning. Every year, the Board of Commissioners must certify to the Department of Agriculture funds to be used for the farmland preservation program to purchase conservation easements. We had a discussion about this back in September during the finance meeting with respect to the budget. The proposal is to certify a total of $952,709. That would include $850,000 from the general fund, $3,850 from private donations that were received to the program, $57,032 clean and green rollback penalties, and $41,827, which is interest off a 25-year installment purchase agreement with the Hornbaker family. With these funds that we would certify to the Department of Agriculture, we would estimate we would receive a total of almost $2.3 million from the Department of Agriculture, giving the program a total of about $3.2 million, which we would expect to preserve approximately 900 acres of farmland in 2022.
Any questions for Stephanie? Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Next, I will call on Elizabeth Grant to discuss the grant for planning. Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. We are seeking your approval today for the acceptance of award in the amount of $283,750 total from the Department of Environmental Protection to cover services for 2022 for our community clean water coordinator in the amount of $100,000 for $30,000 in EMP verification, contracting, and then also $153,000 in construction for a park, for stream bank restoration, forestry, and in-stream structures, as well as conservation landscaping.
Questions for Elizabeth? Hearing none. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I will now call on Justin Miller to discuss the grant for recycling and waste. And Justin, I must say, everyone was anticipating a entertaining background, but
I gotta get that going again.
okay, we'll look forward to that.
All right, commissioners, this is it's a DEP application for registration for our 2022 household hazardous waste disposal events. DEP, to give us grant money, they require us to register ahead of time. Basically, the registration tells them the contractor will be using, the hauler who will haul the material, and the facilities where the material will go. They want to be comfortable with, with what we're planning to do with this material. It also tells them details about our events. We're proposing 4 events in 2022, Thursday, April 14th, Saturday, June 4th, Saturday, August 6th, and Thursday, October 27th. We also have to give them kind of an idea of how much grant money we will ask for. This is a reimbursement grant. So after each event, we will submit what's called an application for reimbursement for 50% of event costs. I'm estimating the total in 2022 will be about $63,000. However, it will be based on actual costs once they're known. Finally, I'd like to go back to the finance meeting we had in November. We talked a little bit about the fee that we charge residents, some of the sponsorship difficulties we're faced with. We haven't completely given up on the sponsorships. We're still trying to make some headway, but As of today, we've not received anything or have an indication that we will receive anything. And upon meeting with the authority on Tuesday, we are still recommending we change the per pound price from 30 cents to 50 cents for 2022. If we would receive sponsorship, we can evaluate it and make decisions at that time.
That doesn't, the sponsorship decision doesn't in any way affect the amount of the grant application?
No, it does not. That was best way to say that was a bonus for the program.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Justin? All right, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And that concludes the contracts and grants. I'll now turn the meeting back over to Stacy.
Thanks, Tammy. Agenda item number 6 is an action requested item, and I'll call on Kirk Stoner to discuss a request for approval of the Cumberland County Climate Action Plan. Kirk?
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners. Not a lot to present today. This is the plan that we reviewed earlier at a finance meeting. The board had requested additional time to review it to see if they had any other questions. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. If not, there's no formal adoption process for this plan by ordinance or resolution. I think just a simple vote of the board to adopt it would suffice, and we'll put the adoption date on the front of the plan, and that'll be fine.
Any questions for Kirk? This is an action requested.
Entertain a motion. The plan adoption.
Make a motion to approve the Cumberland County Climate Action Plan as presented.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Kirk.
Thanks, Kirk, for joining us. Move on then to agenda item number 7, and I'll call on Commissioner DiFilippo to discuss appointments to the Agricultural Land Preservation Board. And I'll also ask Commissioner to please cover agenda item number 8.
Sure. The last Ag Board meeting, which was January 12th, one of the actions or recommendations that the board had was to fill 2 member-at-large positions on the Ag Board. And Barry France and Phyllis and I were recommended for appointment. I see Barry's resume letter is in our packet. I do not see Phyllis's. However, both of these folks were interviewed. Barry has a very good background in agriculture and other things. And Phyllis's background is finance and banking. So I think we're going to get a good perspective from these folks on the Ag Board. So I asked the Board of Commissioners for a favorable recommendation or appointment. Also, each year the Ag Board has to recommend a chairman of that board. And this year, again, the Ag Board unanimously recommended Diane Stamey for another year as chairman of the board. Again, I asked my colleagues to look favorably upon this appointment. That's all I have for these 2 items.
Thank you, Commissioner. Agenda item number 9 is an appointment recommendations for the Cumberland County Commission for Women, and I call on Commissioner Bashi to discuss.
So we have 3 recommendations for the Commission for Women. And Stacy, I just have a question about Justine Bressler as a follow-up to the meeting that we had last week. Is this appointment term correct? I thought we were looking to maybe retroactively appoint her. I could be wrong. I'm going to say I'm wrong then.
Yeah,
And that's fine.
I did hear that at the meeting, but they didn't follow through with requesting that.
Okay, fair enough. So the request for 3 women, the first is Justine Bressler, the second is Norma Brandt, and the third is Kim Strizzy. And these appointments are 3-year terms effective January 24th, 2022, and expiring December 31, 2024. Their member information sheets are here in our packets, and all 3 women are most certainly well qualified to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We move on then to agenda item number 10, which is Commissioner's Liaison reports. And I'll start by calling on Commissioner Eichelberg.
Okay, just a couple of brief items. We already heard from Justin in regards to the authority meeting on Tuesday night. On that, just wanted to mention too that the board did its reorganization. Dave Linker is once again serving as the chair of that organization. And the main topic of discussion was, of course, the household hazardous waste program, as Joe mentioned, and the issue of sponsorships, which he did bring up. My understanding is that the lack of sponsorships really evolved from this consolidation that's been going on, and waste management is kind of the king of the hill right now. But as often happens with that type of consolidation, you've got this one very large behemoth organization. That's why there's this confusion over the sponsorships. Apparently, there's one arm of waste management speaking favorably about the sponsorships, and the people who are making day-to-day decisions aren't aware of these and aren't willing to approve that. So there's still some prospect of sponsorship there, but obviously the authority's not letting that as a possibility color their current decision making, but we're hopeful that sponsorships will be restored. And so we're going to see, because that could have long-term ramifications, of course. So, and the question regarding the cost issue, as Judd mentioned, was discussed at a finance meeting some time back. He did send me a note late yesterday asking if the commissioners had any input in regard to the issue of the sponsorship money. I think our indication before was that we were generally supportive, and I didn't hear anything today. So I'd like to just report back to him that there's no lingering concerns about this increase in the poundage cost, but I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of it.
So there have been several constituents that have reached out to me on social media that are concerned that there's a cost at all. So if you're looking for input, that there are certainly people that are concerned that there's a charge to them to recycle household hazardous waste and or electronics. For the record.
Yeah, we do regular surveying among the participants, and there is always a faction that's not interested in paying anything. We have noted that over the last few years that is a dwindling proportion of the respondents. So I think it stands that most folks are willing to pay for a service that they see as valuable. I don't foresee a change in that direction by the authority, but they are very aware that there are some folks that are not pleased with that, as they likely always will be, I guess. So. And okay, on MHID, the board meeting is today. Of course, we do get some documents in advance. Some of this is very similar to what we heard in the last update as well. I have the agenda, and my plan is to participate in that meeting. I'm kind of juggling a schedule as another schedule item, or somebody else has a conflict. So if not, I'll be certain to get a more thorough update from Annie, but I think with everything we've got, it's pretty thorough. Topics that continue to be at the forefront for the advisory board really are the COVID cases are still driving a lot of changes in terms of how the department delivers service. We're seeing an increase in the number of individuals who contracted, and that's consumers and residents of the homes, the group homes. The programs struggle to remain open. Of course, staffing remains virtually in crisis state. Some of the programs, the day programs, have closed as of the last report date here. Sea Park was temporarily closed, but reopened this week. UCP closed in Camp Hill, Lemoyne, has not reopened as of the last report, and positive cases continue to increase. So there's widespread impact there, the inability to provide the service that's needed. Also, disability is distributing the Rescue Act money now to help with the expenses and personnel costs that are related to that. That's apparently well underway. And let's see, on the IDD side, very similar issues in terms of service delivery. I did get some year-end information on the cumulative casework, and as we're always interested in the training, the QPC question, persuade, refer, anti-suicide message training is something that we're finding is very sought after and very valued. For the year, they provided 182 individuals with training. In 2020, it was 112. So obviously increased demand for that. Not sure what the projection is for this year, but clearly an issue in need of attention, and folks are very involved with that. A lot of the focus, of course, has been with the first responder community, as they are on the front lines of dealing with a lot of folks with challenges, of which there are many right now. Staffing continues to be, again, incredible challenge. Crisis data in terms of commitments and such, 303% increase in the mobile outreach that the department provides for the month of December across 3 years. Some of the increase is due to the opening of the additional hospitals, but a lot of this is driven by the mobile support provided to police. A lot of outreach to other local emergency departments are requesting the crisis service. So obviously a need there. Those numbers continue to grow, as you would expect under a troubling circumstance such as we have now with the pandemic, as well as our inherent population growth and just the occurrence of more folks who are in distress. So staffing crisis shortage continues to be very difficult to meet. And I will be, as I say, attending that meeting today. If there's any additional news items to come up, I'll be sure to pass those along. Only other thing was continue working through the organizational transition over CADIC. Gary Chicatano's and I've been trying to meet so we can discuss some of the continuity on some of the economic development projects. And we're trying to do that today. I'll probably make that work. I think he has enough flexibility that can happen without me having to miss the MHID. I'll be in touch with him as soon as this is over so we can finalize that. Everything else there seems to be going pretty well. I think everybody's up to speed on all of that. Of course, we just had a board meeting, so you can see budget-wise, where CADIC's ended up in pretty good shape. We're regretfully seeing some board members who are cycling off the board. We do have other members queued up to come on, so hopefully we continue providing the services and making CADIC more effective by the day. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fauci.
Hello, Cumberland County. So I'll start with Children and Youth. The Children and Youth Citizens Advisory Committee. We met at 5 p.m. on the 18th of January. I'm sorry, 6 p.m. on the 18th of January. And the first piece of exciting news to come out of that meeting is that Nikki McElwee sat down with Representative Cheryl Delosier, and they had a conversation about complex cases, and Representative Delosier is taking that very seriously and took it back to her committee. So I'm glad that that is moving forward and that there's some decent effort being put forth at the state level to assist with remedying those situations. Cumberland County's own Shannon Pavlovchik, she did a presentation on intake services at Children and Youth. So she talked about staffing and caseloads, referrals, the difference between general protective services and child protective services, the types of assessments that they do, the importance of kinship care, and of course, their voluminous reporting requirements at Children and Youth. They are quite stringent. So that was an hour well spent learning about that. On 118 at 5 p.m., I attended the meeting for elected officials regarding the Market Street Bridge and the proposed improvements there. PennDOT, of course, has a website where you can go and look at their 3 options for improvement. All are extensive. This is a $63.8 million plan to improve this bridge. There will be work on both the east and west sides of the bridge. And that bridge right now, they say it's in fair to poor condition. And at that meeting, interestingly, a representative from PennDOT claimed that they would not be doing this work at the same time that the 83 bridge will be tolled. And that is the first time I've heard that. So I would like to keep an eye on that. But it was a good meeting. And again, PennDOT's website is incredibly helpful if you want to understand what could happen with that bridge. And Bridget, I will take this up as soon as I'm done. I think I did that last time. I think it's really helpful. Okay. The library, we met, the Cumberland County Library System, we met on 1/10 of 2022. And Carolyn Blatchley, the executive director, reviewed the policies and procedures for challenges to library materials, because there are members of the public that are challenging the materials that are available to the public in the library. So she went down through those issues. That was very interesting. There are new officers in 2022. Linda Rise is the president. The vice president is Jim Hutchinson, and William Gold is the treasurer. Each library in the Cumberland County Library System will make its own decisions regarding possible building closures because of COVID. Bosler Library is going to remain a polling place. I wonder if Bethany Salzarullo is listening. I'm sure she already knows that and is very happy. One of the other things that Carolyn Blatchley brought to our attention is an uptick in First Amendment audits at libraries. This is very interesting. This is a movement by some people to go into the library and use their phones to video people. And then, you know, they want to see if they're going to get a rise out of library workers. So she talked about how they handle that, and the American library system. There's this great article out there about it if you're interested in learning more about that. At the John Graham Library, they are happy that they are open and operating. Amelia Gibbons expanded their Saturday hours, and at Simpson here in Mechanicsburg on February 18th, the Spring High School musical preview will occur, and there will be 5 high schools participating. So that sounds very cool. I know that I think the last time they did that was maybe 2019, and COVID has, you know, stopped all that fun from happening. So they're looking forward to it. Last week, Commissioner DeFilippo, Kirk Stoner, and I went to the Camp Hill Borough public meeting regarding the potential tolling of the 83 bridge. That was very enlightening. There was lots of good press coverage on it. Representative Delozier was there along with Representative Rothman. And I just left Planning Commission that ran from 7:30 this morning until 8:36 a.m. So I got to make it here, and I think I have a decent report for you, being that I could stay for the whole meeting. So the South Middleton Township Airport Zone, the commission approved that for recommendation. The Shippensburg Township rezoning from R2 to C2, that was recommended for disapproval. Kirk Stoner talked about the grant committees that the commission could create, and those would be created as Cumberland Plans, Transportation and Land Partnerships. Next month, the commission will come back and they will decide which committees they want to be on. Oh, subdivision and land development plans. So in December, there were 7 total plans. In 2021 year to date, there were 158, and in 2020, there were 177. So 2021's plan count was down a little bit. There are ordinance text amendments proposed. There was no action on this. It was informational. Silver Spring Township multifamily dwellings in the C2 district. And Commissioner DeFilippo, that's a follow-up on what they did last month. So maybe you might be interested in taking a look at that. And then the East Pennsboro Township brought a revised ambulance service in R1 district text amendment. And I think that's about it from planning. And I think that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Commissioner DeFilippo.
Thank you. The Ag Board met last Wednesday, and as mentioned today, one of the key actions was to recommend 2 at-large members. Also want to advise the commissioners that due to the passing of Gary Martin, we have a township supervisor position open that we will have a recommendation shortly. There are currently 29 applicants on the waiting list for the conservation easement program. After all that settles in 2022, we should have approximately 23,000 acres preserved. 2022 Silver Spring will be providing 180 acres into this total to be preserved and will be bearing approximately 70% of the cost of the conservation easement. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board meeting was supposed to be last week and it was postponed. Coming up today, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority will meet. The Blighted Property Board will meet also later today. Aging Advisory tomorrow and Conservation District next Tuesday. So I will have 4 reports at our next workshop. I also want to mention I attended the CAPCOG annual dinner. The guest speaker was our Auditor General, Timothy DeFore. The event was well attended. It was good to see commissioners from Dauphin and Perry County. And I also attended a hearing regarding the state redistricting maps that was held up around last week. There were a lot of local elected officials there testifying against the proposal. And it's also good to see George Book there from the West Shore Chamber of Commerce providing his comments. And I believe that is it, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Stacy had one other item, sorry, neglected to mention, but last week, Stacy and I attended on behalf of the Commissioners, the Emergency Services Action Panel, our regularly scheduled forum for all first responder groups. And I just wanted to comment very briefly, that was still the same night as the Camp Hill meeting where colleagues were at, so we made sure we had representation there. So I did want to just mention in passing a couple of items. There were, we had a considerable amount of discussion regarding the COVID impacts on the emergency services community and a lot of firsthand stories there. I can tell you, they are on the front line very literally in this. And we did have a considerable amount of discussion regarding the mental health stresses that are there, and some of the resources that are available. And we urged the folks who were at the meeting to push out information on various things that are done. The commissioners received, I didn't want to neglect to tell this, but received a considerable amount of kudos for the additional assistance that we provided for public safety in terms of emotional and mental health support for the stresses that they are facing in this. Dwayne Nevis of the EMS did mention about there have been several episodes of hospitalization diverts. The hospitals are so full, the emergency rooms are full, that they simply cannot deliver someone there. And some of the delays for the EMS folks are running to 45 minutes to an hour, I think he said, which means they're not available to be out on the street. They cannot physically transfer the individual because there's nowhere to transfer them. And thus, they've been diverse. That's even with a new hospital in the county as well. So this continues to be a very serious issue. I think we're going to be hearing more about it, although everyone's hoping that the peak of the Omicron surge is at hand and maybe things will go down from here. But I did want to mention specifically, we got a report from Nathan Herring with Cumberland Goodwill about ambulances that are now being pursued and harassed by individuals over the COVID issue, even at the doors of the emergency room. And apparently there's one very prominent incident, but more than one incident, according to him, that this has become a thing that they have to be aware of and protect themselves against potential problems. And obviously, that wears on people who are out here just trying to do the service. So I think we may be hearing more about that, and we need to be aware of that. And it does stick in the back of my mind that this seems to be an increasing trend. Gene mentioned about the library folks who essentially are being harassed with cell phones. We're hearing about this. We've got election season coming up. I think we are going to have some discussion in regards to our election workers, and hopefully we can find something preemptive to do there. I just think that's going to be an issue. So, and Stacy, since you were in attendance as well, was there anything you recall? Sorry to hit you out of the blue with that. Was there anything else that was discussed at that meeting that we should come forward?
No, I think those were really the two highlights of that meeting,
Okay,
most important to share.
all right, that's all I have.
I just wanted to add something because I forgot about it. But at the planning meeting, the commission did mention our resolution regarding the tolling of the 83 bridge. And there were a couple of members that wondered if, as we move forward with things, if we could offer some solutions. They thought the resolution was very good and it certainly expressed what we don't want. But we did not express in that what we do want, which I think is an excellent point. And as we move forward on things, it would be good to start putting out what we are looking for. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, moving on then to agenda item number 11. I would like to report that executive sessions were held on January 13th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m., January 18th, 2022 at 11 a.m., and January 19th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m., all regarding personnel. Is there any additional business to come before the board today?
Just one item, Jean and Gary, the recommendations for the Ag Board, Phyllis and I will get you her right up. Right after this meeting. You guys need to have that before you vote on something. So I will get that to you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, hearing no additional business, we are adjourned.